Boom, we are alive, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining. It's another TO Talks Tuesday. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin's price, the recent rebound action, the reaccumulation after decline, which is something I had noticed and noted on our previous videos. And we're going to take a look at some of the volatility metrics that are out there as well. Now, this is always one of our favorites. So let's just dive in and basically take a look straight at the Bitcoin chart as it is. So here is Bitcoin on the daily. As you can see, one of the things, normally when we drop down into a spring, we recover right away and then return through the continuation of the box. This movement down and kind of secondary tests that have taken place, this leads me to believe that we're probably going to form a little bit of a reaccumulation channel here. Now, I'd gone over this in the previous videos, and I think that this is still holding true. It might be obviously not as long as the green lines here. The time frame is kind of irrelevant to some degree. But one of the things that's important is that a lot of this accumulation that's been taking place leads me to believe that the bull market is not finished. Now, I think we're well on our way to around 150,000. A reaccumulation after decline is generally a bit weaker than the previous cycle highs we had seen, where we've just got a reaccumulation right out the back of the box. I tend to think that when we see a reaccumulation schematic like this, which is the reaccumulation after decline, you have the sharp drop into the $100,000 area, and then the sharper drawdown, very similar to what we've seen in the past. There's a high likelihood that we continue in this box for a little bit. Now, if we go to the stochastic RSI right now is friggin' peaked out on the daily. The MACD hasn't crossed over the center line yet, but it is still pointing up. There are enough signals here for me to think that we're bullish and we will continue bullish. So I haven't changed my long-term thesis yet, which is I think Bitcoin's going to millions of dollars. I've said that since it was $200. So we've got a long ways to go for the upside still, largely a game of patience. But on the intermediate and the shorter time frames right now, I actually am looking for kind of a return to baseline around 80,000, a few bounces between 80 and this $90,000 area before we break up and continue well on our way to $150,000. Now, one of the reasons I had made this sentiment was because of this larger potential for a cup and handle. I'll turn the bear claw off here, one of the free indicators that we offer in the private group. But nonetheless, here we go, run a parallel channel. Usually when we've got a big reaccumulation like this, you can suspect that you've got your buying climax, your secondary test, your spring, your test, your breakout into the SOS, your backup phase, your first SOS, and your first backup phase. So I think that we are just in that SOS and backup phase. And one of the reasons we had made this conjecture earlier is because we had watched the similarity between gold's long-term cup and handle reaccumulation as well. So again, notice the buying climax, the automatic rally, the secondary test, the spring, the first test, the move into the SOS, this backup phase, and your move into the SOS and LPS phases. So again, I think that's what's happening here for Bitcoin. That's what it looks like to me. Kind of the intermediary stuff is a little bit more difficult to call note for note. But nonetheless, as we zoom in here on the 6 hour and take a look at the most recent reaccumulation after decline time frames that we've been speaking about, this is what it looks like to me. That we're going to bounce around between 80,000 and 70,000 before finally screaming off into the new all-time highs. Now, this again, it's important to remember that the reaccumulation after decline is the weakest of the reaccumulation. So my initial targets are around $240,000 for this cycle. We might actually still get there. It's hard to say at this moment if we get there in this cycle, but I think we're going to get there regardless. Again, my initial assertion was that we're going to $6 million. That's just the number I pulled out of the hat in early 2016. And I've been pleasantly surprised every step along the way of us heading that direction. So it's important to remember that there's other great data out there too. So I found a nice little hot chart here from Glassnode. Let's move my face over here. That should work. So we've seen these again, the hot supply is showing the amount of spot purchased Bitcoin in this movement is very similar to the long-term holder supply we had looked at in previous videos. Massive decline in that hot contract, decline in speculation. I think we're kind of reaching the bottom there. And I suspect we're about to continue this breakout. So we'll be watching closely. There's some great data on Glassnode, although more recently I have been using Bitcoin Pro's data. Here on Bitcoin Pro, if I move my face over here to the side, this actually should give us a bit more data too. One of the things I think that's important is to, yeah, there we go. Let's move my face to the top for this one. The purple line here is the most recent Bitcoin bull market. As you can see in the previous bull markets, we've gone significantly higher in the coming months. I suspect that's going to be the case. We're going to see a continual rise in this purple line, probably bring us up to the $150,000 to $250,000 area. There's lots of reasons for us to believe that this bull market is not over. So I haven't packed it up yet. I haven't called it quits yet. These charts give me ample confidence in the road ahead. I think that the other thing that's important to remember is that the governments are just going to keep printing money. There's no other really good choice for them here. So with that in mind, all assets will continue to inflate. The stock market will likely continue up. I've called for a market melt up, but I don't suspect you should be holding ETFs to begin with. There's a lot of danger in holding your assets in ETFs. The clearinghouses won't let you actually own the stock certificate, so it's not a great place to hold your money as far as I'm concerned. But nonetheless, in the past, it's been something that's performed really well. The past doesn't always equal future. The other thing that's important here too, I wanted to point out, the Bitcoin long now exceeds the short by about $500 million. A little over $500 million. This is usually a good indicator as well across multiple exchanges. The long sentiment is significantly higher than the short sentiment again. With everything that we've seen in the market in the last 48 hours, just let's take a quick look at Solana here as an example. I've been messing around with some trades in the background. I've finished most of my shorts. I had built a few longs over the last week. Some of them stayed, some of them got stopped out. Try to be somewhat conservative with my risk-adjusted plays right now. Not in the investment portfolio, but more in just the risk-adjusted short time frame plays. Solana seems to have bottomed out. On the 15-minute here, there are some strong indications that we have just finished a middle-of-the-box reaccumulation. I guess it's on the smaller time frames, important to note. Here, it looks like we have formed a beautiful horizontal time frame. We've come up, we've kicked into the SOS pattern, and I believe we're doing completing the SOS and backup phase now. So I suspect we're going to see higher prices in all assets. Moving over now to the S&P 500 on the daily, we are pushing. I suspect we're going to push all the way back up to around 584 for the S&P 500, but we could continue further. We're really waiting for more data to come in. But the Federal Reserve at this moment has said they're dovish. They're going to remain dovish for the next little while. So there's no reason to believe that anything on that side of the story is going to change, at least for the next 2 to 3 months. And lastly, the dollar index is, we've been following this chart for quite some time. We've been in this rising channel for the dollar here. And as we zoom in a little bit closer, let's take a look at the 4-hour. Get rid of this lower green box at the bottom. Yeah. Maybe the daily will give it a little bit better. Yeah, here's the daily. I'm starting to think that this is an up thrust followed by distribution. Backup phases usually don't come this deep. I think we're going to get some type of bounce and rebound in the dollar, but ultimately I think it's going to end up lower. I think that they're going to end up printing. I think at the end of the day, that's the only buttons they have left to pull, is dropping interest rates. Once they start to see massive deflation come in, which is coming, I've predicted for the last year and a half that we're going to see huge whipsaws between deflation and inflation as the central bank's trying to figure out what is happening. And if you're in the private newsletter, you know what I believe is happening. although I can't speak about those things very easily without getting kicked off the internet or banned, and I don't want to get banned because I love the Arcane Bear community. Anyways, it's the conclusion of TO Talks. I'm still bullish, still believe we're going to 150 grand. We may go higher. The reaccumulation after decline makes me think that this particular portion of the market cycle is going to probably peak out around 150,000. We'll probably come back down, form one more final reaccumulation range, and then I think we're going into hyperinflation territory. I think once they lower the interest rates and they start to get into that printing mode, Bitcoin is well on its way to millions of dollars as the average and general public starts to lose faith and confidence in their government's ability to do anything right at this point. They're just so bad at their fucking job. Anyways, it's Theo the Arcane Bear. Thank you all much for joining us. Leave your thoughts, your comments, your questions. Share the video far and wide. I've made a commitment this year to do every Tuesday and Thursday. Never done that before. I've always kind of just made it up as I went and would just randomly press record. But as I get older and starting to adventure off into a few new things in life at the moment, I want to share a much higher level of commitment to the Arcane Bear family and everything that we're doing together, because I'm very grateful for all of the support over the years, this amazing community that we've built. Some of my best friends I've met from this channel, and hopefully one day I get to meet more of you in person as well. So this is Theo with the Arcane Bear. I'm signing off for the rest of the day. We'll see you guys again on the next episode.